Hi everybody. Let me get comfortable here. Trying to get comfortable here. Yeah, let's move this here. See if I can't get me lined up with the middle of the picture. It don't really matter. Anyway, let's bring it in closer. Hi. I am Tami and I welcome you to the Shit Show. I am your hostess. Go get yourself coffee, gummies, shot, tea, milk, whatever it is that makes you happy, and pause right here and then come on back because I'm going to get into what I have to get into today. So you guys noticed that I've been around for a while. It's not really a lot to do with mentals, but it had to do with physicals. I'm going to turn you here. You'll notice McGiss isn't there. Last time I was on, I mentioned, and I think the time before that, I am severely allergic to chihuahuas. Actually, I'm allergic to cats and any dog that sheds. So I rehomed her. It broke my heart. I cried for a week. And the guy sends pictures, and it was actually a man. She hated men, but she leapt in his arms. So they say your dog picks you, and she picked me, and she picked him, because there were several people interested in adopting her. So I've been alone since then. But what happened was my allergies had gotten really, really bad the last time I videoed. And I would think I was already on one set of antibiotics due to the sinus infection. That sinus infection didn't get better with one round of 10 days of antibiotics. I went into a second week. I still had her. At the end, right before the end, I think I had like 2 days left, it went into my upper lungs. I couldn't breathe. It got worse and worse, and I finally went to the doctor. At which time he said, I'll give you antibiotics. And he did. Now, 2 days before I went to the doctor, I was walking sis McGiss. And I don't know if any of you remember coat hangers that were made out of metal. Someone had thrown a mess of them in the grass kind of desert area by my apartment. And inadvertently, I went to turn around. Both my feet got stuck in this damn hanger. I don't know how, but I fell. I fell on the same side I fall on all the time, my left side. I broke 3 ribs. So the combination of the sinus infection, the inability to cough, because I don't know if you've ever had broken ribs, but I've had them several times, and they hurt. And the same 3 I had broken when I messed up my knee, when I shattered my knee and my hip. So it didn't help that I couldn't cough. So during that time, I stayed on my antibiotics. This was still here. At that time, I had started vacuuming twice a day because I wasn't getting any better. Well, the end of those, that came to 2 days before it was over, and my doctor just looked at me and said, Tami, you can't live on antibiotics the rest of your life. As long as she is there giving you irritants into your sinuses and your lungs, because what you guys don't know is I'm an asthmatic. He said, I just can't keep you living on antibiotics. You have to rehome that dog. Well, I drug my feet and cried about it, but eventually I rehomed her. And I still ended up having a third set for the pneumonia. And at the middle of the third set, it finally went away. But I was like vacuuming twice a day just to get anything of hers lingering, any hairs, any dander, because those little dogs really do shed as bad as my lab did. Just saying. I pulled out her sleeping crate, and you guys, it looked like I could have knitted a sweater back there, and it was only a week. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, that's really sad. So I have been unable to sleep in my bed up until 2 nights ago because of the broken ribs, and they're just now healing. They can't do anything for broken ribs. You can go in and have x-rays and make sure your lung didn't get punctured or something else of importance, but besides that, you have to heal. So needless to say, I carried around a little pillow or towel rolled up, and I would put it against my ribs and hold it when I had a cough. It's quite miserable. So there's 2 things for the reason I haven't been on. You know, that little dog got me through some really hard times. I could cry about it. I had her when I needed her most. And I think that's why I kept fighting to keep her. But the fact is, I have to save up $500 or $600 to buy a little dog that don't shed. I'm not in a rush. I'm heartbroken still. My next thing that I have to talk about is the death of my husband. I mentioned on here the last time that I had spoke about him many times on both my channels. He was the narcissist that I was dealing with. I had dealt with since 2013. I moved from one state to another. He followed me. I begged him to go home back to Nevada. He refused. He didn't know nobody here. He didn't want to know nobody here. But because I was here, he was staying. He pretty much bullied me and bossed me around from his house. It never got any better. But what I was going through was a part of me, and this is hard to say because I'm not a narcissist and I'm not inhuman. A part of me was glad he was gone. And yeah, I admit that. So I got a psychiatrist and I got a therapist. And on top of my PTSD that I got from him, I also have what my psychiatrist calls complicated bereavement. That means that there was abuse before the death of that partner. And you know, guys, it's really weird because stuff I had thought I had just forgiven him for and put away and didn't give a shit about it anymore, some of the stuff he did to me came crashing back. I started noticing that little things I would do would remind me of something he had done to me that was horrific. I mean, horrific. And it kept getting worse and kept getting worse. I didn't want to clean my house. I didn't want to shower. I didn't want to cook. I love to cook, you guys know that. I didn't want to do anything but wallow in my pity of not knowing why a part of me was happy that this man was finally out of my life. Because I had tried many times. I sold my trailer in Apache Junction to get rid of it. I still couldn't. I moved out. He called me every day, 2-3 times a day. He would tell me what to do, when to do it, and how to do it from his house. Like him insisting that I find him dead. He was a cruel person. Now, he's gone, and he did believe in Jesus. And so I also have to accept the fact that he is forgiven by our Savior. I have to also take into consideration, he shared with me that his mother abused him very badly as a child. And I seen a little bit of that abuse the night that his mother and his cousin went to the hospital and tried to convince him he wasn't dying. From his neck to his pelvic bone, he was cancer. His pancreas, his liver, his gallbladder. I even thought I seen nodules in his heart when they were doing ultrasounds of his heart. And I had to keep reminding him that the doctors said that he had hours, maybe days. And finally the nurse came in that next morning and said, "Don't you remember what they told you?" And he said, "Yeah, but..." And she goes, "There's no buts, Elliot." And then he cried. And I cried. And the reason I was so upset that Elliot didn't come to my house for hospice was because when you go into hospice, I don't know if you know this or not, they don't feed you. They don't give you water. The only thing they give you day in and day out is morphine. They just want you to die so that they can empty out that bed. He knew how I felt about that. I've had plenty of family members that went into hospice in their settings, you know, in their little houses, death houses is what I call them, and they are gone in 3 days. Well, it's got to 3.5 days, okay? But I was so upset because I would have fed him. I would have gave him water. You know, he still was going to leave. You know, he was still on his way out, you guys. But he could have spent a little more time. It wouldn't have been a lot. He'd spent all that time by himself in that apartment. You know, with me going over 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a week. But for the most part, during his worst times, he was alone in that apartment. So that was my upset about him not wanting and them talking him into going into the hospice situation. His family did that the night before I had him transferred to hospice. He was due to come to my house that day. So I see my psychiatrist once a month, and I see my therapist. I was seeing her once a week, and I've just graduated to once every 2 weeks. And actually, let me show you something. I'm also ADHD. I'm not controlled by medicine. I never have been. My grandma said she'll learn to handle it, and that was that. But she turned me on to this thing. It's called the ADHD Planner. So if you have ADHD, I have to recommend this because, let me get this something that ain't been written on. It has questions about how you feel, what you did for self-care. It has a place for mind dumping. She also had me start a journal for every person in my life that's hurt me. And that includes my kids. And she said at any time, and this might help people out there, I don't know, but this is what she told me for me. I'm not giving medical advice here, guys. Let's make that straight. She told me that if I took and got a journal, like one of those little composition journals, she said, and if I take and put a name on the outside of that journal of anybody who has hurt me in the past that I might think I tucked away for another day, but inadvertently certain times of the year or here and there, they pop into my head and the hurt hits, to write it down. Even if it's the same hurt, write it down again and again and again. And anytime it pops up in my mind, she wants me to write down what I'm feeling. Find out write down what it cost me, what it costs me today, and do I ever think it'll be resurrected, fixed. So those are two of my homeworks that I do. My psychiatrist also put me on Zoloft. Now, I don't know if anybody out there is bipolar. I am bipolar 1. But bipolar is really a unique disease. I live in a manic state, so when depression hits, it knocks me on my ass, because I am pretty much 90% of the time running on manic, okay? And I had to quit taking antidepressants because it would drag me down to that point of horrible depression. And Zoloft was the very first antidepressant I was on back in the mid-90s. And so I suggested it to my psychiatrist. I'm not on it long term. I'm just on it enough to feel normal. I'm fixing to talk to him about mood stabilizer, not lithium. I was on lithium one time. I was on it about 5 or 6 months. I have no recollection mentally what happened during that time. The only reason I know what happened at that time was I wrote it in a journal. That's how bad the lithium messed with me. So when I see him in a few days, I'm going to bring up maybe a mood stabilizer and get myself off of these antidepressants, because just recently, in the last few days, I've noticed the depression is harder. I don't know how to explain that. When you first start taking them, they kind of zombie you. I mean, I'll just be for real here. And I sleep a lot. Well, now, at night, when it's time to go to bed and I'm late, well, just recently in my bed, but when I was sitting in my chair, I would fall asleep. Now I'm having trouble falling asleep, and it's like I'm not even on the medicine. And so I don't look forward to being on that medicine much longer, because it's not good for my ADHD. I mean, my bipolar. You guys, I have so many diagnoses behind my name mentally, it's just not even funny. And I'm anorexic. You know, I starve myself sometimes. I just do. I'm not COD though, I can tell you that. I used to be. I used to be COD. You couldn't tell by looking at my house today. But anyhow, so I'll let you guys know why and how if I get on a mood stabilizer. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is I've been kind of boycotting YouTube. There's this fat girl, and she knows she's fat. She don't care about being fat. She actually does what they call mukbangs, where she sits and eats like a pig, enough food for 5 and 6 people. She recently, in the last 6 months, she was in Kuwait with her fake husband, and she was running a scam for homeless cats. And the law there's a law there, that's against their law. If anybody, there's one place that takes care of homeless animals, and they do the collection of donations by themselves. Nobody is allowed to beg for money. Nobody's allowed to ask for money in Kuwait. Well, she got busted, and she ran before they could arrest her. So she's right now a fugitive from Kuwait for breaking that law. She ran to Canada, where she's from, and those people are as bad as our little pink and green-haired people that are running around. She ran back to Canada. This fake husband of hers is supposedly from Syria. So 2 weeks after she ran to Canada, she sneaks into Syria, and I mean sneaks in the back way to Syria. Her husband goes down and claims her as a resident of Syria, although she is still legally a resident of Canada. Anyway, I can't stand this person, but what she did in the last few weeks pissed me off. She got a little mentally ill child, autistic I believe, and collected donations, not through her YouTube channel on Super Chats. No, she didn't want YouTube to get part of that money. She had these donations sent to her private PayPal account, thousands and thousands. And when she was asked to account for it, she made the comment, "It's my money now." And that was during a time she was taking 7 days in the most expensive hotel in Syria, having room delivery, feeding that 500-pound body of hers. Now, not only I, but at least 100 other people reported her to YouTube for using this handicapped child for money, for scamming people out of their money. First of all, I don't know after the cat scam, people would even give to her. I think that they're off like she's off, okay? Why they would even give her money. Now I hear she's running another scam, but I won't watch. I haven't been on YouTube in a very long time. I refuse to watch anybody. I've never watched her channel. I've only watched channels that react to her, because I'm not giving the bitch no money. No, sir. Get off your fat ass, quit stuffing your face, get a fucking job. She can't even be a wife. Anyhow, and that's another thing. She could not legally marry that man when they were in Kuwait. It was nothing more than a holy ceremony, because she was not a legal resident. In Kuwait, you cannot get married if you're not a legal resident. She was a visiting, so she would do visa runs every 3 months, go to Canada, where else did they go? An Oriental place, I don't want to say Japan, Taiwan, but she would run and stay gone as long as she had to, and then come back in. And she lived 2 years that way, and they never busted her for border hopping. They're washing for her now. So anyway, this fake husband of hers is supposedly from Syria, and he was nothing but a, what do you call it when you run? A refuge in Kuwait. In other words, he was there by their graces. And he was living with her, not legally married, which that crime in that country is worthy of death. And they found out. So now they're in Syria. She is using little kids to collect illegal donations and supposedly living in his family home. So out of that money that she got off of that little girl, that mentally ill little girl, they bought solar for their house and batteries, because in Syria you only get 3 hours a day of electricity. So all of a sudden she comes up with all these thousands of dollars to run the whole house on solar. I used to boondock. And you know what? I had a 100-watt panel, a battery, and everything else that went with 100 watts. And I'm going to tell you what, I got maybe 3 hours of TV or a fan running out of 100 watts. It cost me $500 back in 2017. So I could imagine the money that she had thrown forth for her comfort. She's abusive to animals. She adopted, when she married that guy, she had 2 cats in Canada. She rehomed them, which is the thing to do. But the one was so old and so neglected that her front paws had grown into the pads of her feet. She was also given $250 at that time by one of her viewers to take the cat to the vet. Weeks go by and the viewer comes back and says, hey, you haven't updated us about taking the cat to the vet. The reason I sent you that $250. You know what she said? Once you send it to me, it's mine to do what I will. And she never took the cat to the vet. So I boycotted YouTube. Bottom line is, I have a hard time supporting a platform that lets people like this get away with it. It's right under their noses. I know at least 100 people reported her the same time I did for using that child for fake donations. You guys, she's so nasty. Her latest picture was of her eating a banana. Looked like she was sucking a dick. And I am not kidding. And it came across my phone and I was furious and I immediately reported it. But she doesn't get taken down for that. She was on some site a few years ago where people come in naked, talk naked and all that. She got a 15-year-old boy that came in masturbating and she aired it on YouTube. Yeah, they took her channel but gave it back to her in 30 days. Anybody else? Me? I had a video taken down because I was talking about some kind of therapy or something I was on, and somebody complained, and they took down my video, never gave it back, and said I was offering medical advice. But they let her get away with all this shit. So I guess if you're not bringing in enough money for YouTube, then they'll take your channel down. But if you're bringing in the money she's bringing in, oh, no. They're not going to get rid of you. There's another fat one, too. That one's called Foodie Beauty. And trust me, anything but pretty, okay? She's vile. She's vile. And the other one is Lynn, Reid. Lynn is her middle name, but she uses that as a full name. She's another fat lady who has killed cats. Beats up on her lovers. She happens to be gay. So between these two people, and no matter what they do, they don't get taken down. I can't watch them. I can't give them my view to anybody because of it. And if all 800 of my subscribers stop watching my videos because they stop watching YouTube, I would not complain. And I know that's crazy. But there has to be a time when companies are held responsible, you guys. So just to reiterate, I'm not giving any medical advice in this video, but I am telling you why I have not been on. And those are the reasons. All of them. And I'm sorry it took me so long. But I gotta tell you guys something. I love it when I get your messages and your comments. The minute I see I have one, I answer it. There are people, the names I remember, I can't put the faces to. And see, that was something I was looking so forward to. You know I'm over on Rumble. Yeah, I'm on that site. And I might post this video over there and start running my videos off of Rumble. I know a few other creators who do. I don't have a big following. I have a big following on my other channel. I have over 7,000 followers. But I didn't want to open that channel up to the things we talk about here. Because I always wanted this to be like a self-help group, you know, where we give our ideas and stuff to each other. You know, it's just like my idea so that I could go live and we could talk back and forth. Was what I wanted, you know. So I am going to go over and make sure I do have a Rumble. I will put it in my comments if I do. And if you care to go over there, and enough of you go over there, I will start posting my videos on that platform. Plus, I think I can go live way before I can go live here on YouTube. Because I have to be monetized here. And I need 1,000 viewers. You know how many times, you guys, that I have reached you have to have this many viewers? The first time, I only had to have 200 viewers. I finally got 200 viewers, and they moved it up to 500 viewers. Then I finally hit 500 viewers. They move it up to 1,000. Now it's not only 1,000 subs, but it's 4,000 hours of watch time. So every time I got there, they just knocked me back down and took my money away. And you know what? As far as my other channel, for all I know, they're still collecting money because they still run ads on my videos. Which is bullshit. Truthfully. That's how I look at it anyway. So, sorry. Residual. So, one last thing before I sign off. Cheers. I love coffee. Iced coffee, kind of coffee candy, coffee ice cream, coffee yogurt. God. One more thing. Just recently, a young man was killed. His name was Charlie Kurt. Charlie had a young wife of 4 years, 2 children, a little girl 4. I think the little boy is just 1 year old. He was assassinated for speaking his truth at a campus in Utah. Charlie was a very religious man. He believed in Jesus Christ. He believed in our Father. And he didn't mince no words about it. He was also a conservative. And he wasn't afraid of that. He wasn't afraid. And you know what? The way he would explain stuff to the kids in those colleges, 90% of them would come to understand truth instead of this evil spell that's over our children who are running around acting like the opposite sex, running around dyeing their hair orange. They all got that little piercing right here. You know, they're little freaks. I'd like to know what generation is their parents. If my kid came home like that, I would slap him. But I have to tell you that the shooter has been caught. It only took him a day. And it was his own father that turned him in. His father was an ex-policeman. So today, before I end this video, I would like to ask you to pray for that man who had to turn his own son in. The courage and the strength and the understanding it took for that man to turn his own son in for the heinous crime of killing Charlie Kurt live on stage. His wife was there and his 2 little children. When he first was brought down off the stage, his little girl ran to him like she always did. and they wouldn't let her near him, but she knew something was wrong with Daddy. So I'm asking you to pray for the father of that shooter, and I'm not even going to glorify him by saying his name. But I do ask that you would pray for Charlie Kirk's wife, his children, his parents, and all the people who are grieving right now in our nation. This has awoke something in some of us that is amazing. As a matter of fact, the day after it happened, I was sitting at the bus stop, and I was watching Facebook about Charlie, and they had just found the killer. And when I first got there, there wasn't anybody there. I had 25 minutes to the bus, so I thought, what the hell, let's just get on Facebook and enjoy my wait. Well, when he walked up, we had about 5 minutes before the bus came. And when I was almost done with the video I was watching, and I was going to shut it off and get ready to get on the bus. But this idiot grunted at me, made hateful comments, called me names about the video I was watching about Charlie Kirk. I turned it up. Not only did I turn it up, I watched those videos until the bus got there. He stared me down the whole time on that bus, but what really got him was 2 people came off that bus to help me on, because I do walk with a walker. A lady in there helped me get my backpack off. She helped me get it back on when it was time for me to get off. And I had a man outside waiting to help me off. So what he's seen was, even though he hated me, and by his gestures and his words, I could tell he was homosexual, which I have a lot of homosexual friends. I do. I love them dearly. They're not like these people, you guys. And he came from California, and how do I know? Because I could tell by the way he was dressed. Still creasing his pants. Okay. let's just get real. So I got off that bus, and I had a man helping me. 2 men actually helped me get off that bus. And the bus driver lowered it down when I was like walking off the bus right onto the sidewalk. I realized how blessed we are to be children of the Most High, Yahweh, and our Savior, Yeshua. Because we are protected, you guys. But I also believe in self-protection. And I will never go out of my house again a day without my self-protection. Because you know what? At 66, almost 67, and crippled, I wouldn't have a standing chance to protect myself. Oh, I would give it a hell of a try. I used to be quite the rumbler in the day. And I do believe in equalizers, stones, sticks, broom. It don't matter. But I will not leave my house again without Pinky. And she is pink. Lady Pink is what she's called, if you care to see what she looks like. So remember, right now our world is in chaos. Evil runs that side of the... I don't know what's happened to these young kids. I've always seen hope in our young kids, and right now I find it hard to find hope in our young kids. It's heart-wrenching. It really is. Anyway, please pray for these people. And if you don't like what I said, don't bother leaving a nasty message, because I'm just going to turn you over to the FBI. I'm not even going to play around about it. There has been over 300 people lost their jobs, including airplane pilots, for dancing and singing about this young man who was assassinated on stage in front of 4,000 people and his family. And I'm not above turning them in. So you want to leave a snotty comment about him? Go ahead. Just be prepared not to have a job in a week, because I'm sending it right to the FBI. The rest of you guys, I'm going to go check out Rumble. If I'm able, and you guys are willing, I will reopen my channel over there, and I will download this video along with I'll download this video, okay? And I'll try and make sure it's exactly the name that I have on YouTube. You guys have a blessed day. Remember to love yourself, love your family. You know, this Charlie guy was so young. What was he, 31 or 32? His birthday was next month. He was such a young man. He had so much life to live, and he was snuffed out. But you know what they did? They made him a martyr, because he now sits at the right hand next to Jesus with all the other martyrs who were killed in the name of Yeshua. To your families, I wish the best, safety and health, protection. And to you, my dear friends, be blessed. You guys are always on my heart. And don't be afraid to comment. And if I missed your comment, which I seldom do, just send me a "what's up?" I'll be looking for it. Anyway, have a great week. I will try and get back on here soon and let you know how the Rumble went, because I really do want to get into an open dialogue with my followers about the stuff that's going on in our world. I know this is a long video. I was going to break it up in 3 parts, but what the hell? If you can't watch it all at once, come back and watch the rest of it another time. Anyway, take care of yourselves, love yourselves, protect your families, stay on your knees praying, and remember, we are all children of the Almighty, the Creator of heaven and earth. Peace out.